Welcome to the second day of our SaaS camp. Today, like I said, is Andrus Purde from Outfunnel. My name is Sakari. I'm from Vendep Capital, and we are the SaaS specialist fund for Nordics and Baltics, investing into B2B SaaS startups only. Andrus, I think you'll probably have a quick intro, but here are a couple things that I know about you. So nice to have you online. So the first thing is that you've been in this game for a while, 15 years, and in good company. First at Skype, then at Pipedrive, and now at Outfunnel, which you founded 2017. And you've really done it all in marketing, but the deep dives that you've done have really been in acquisition marketing. To me, that's exactly what marketing is about: getting new customers. And then the other side, maybe outside your daily working life, is that you've given back a lot to the community. I mean, you've been angel investing, you've been blogging, sharing your expenses also by speaking. At least I saw a really nice video from SaaS to Europa, but I don't think that's the only speaking engagement in addition to this you have had. But big thanks for coming online today. And on the lighter side, I just realized that you've also set up the Tallinn Comedy Festival and some stand-up events in Tallinn. So I come to Tallinn at least once a month, so have to one next time. So welcome, and Andrus, please take it away.
Hey, thank you for having me here, and then hello all. Welcome to this session. So the title of this session, and I liked when Timo suggested some titles for this session. And I really like the sound of this: 15 years in tech marketing, crucial lessons for creating growth. I like the sound of it. Unfortunately, it's a bit misleading because it creates the delusion that I know how to create growth. What's true is I've been in marketing for tech marketing for 15 years. What is true is that I've tried lots of things, and then some of these things have worked. But I mean, every company is different, and also every time is different. So what worked in 2018 or 2015 or 2010 doesn't work in 2021. So this title is colossally misleading. Let's first agree on that. So what I will do is share some of the lessons learned over 15 years. These are not all the lessons, or they're not even all the most important lessons, but these are relevant or have been relevant for me in my day-to-day. I've used these things at Skype, at Pipedrive, and using the things we'll talk about almost every day or every week at the Outfunnel. But to make the title, I mean, you have to have the right title. I think it's good to then just call a spade a spade. So this session is reminiscences of an old marketing fart, and then hopefully you'll find some nuggets on some frames of mind, tools, frameworks that you can put to use in whatever you do. Hope to make it interactive, so please chime in with Q&A or comments during the session, or we'll also have plenty of time for questions in the end. So the plan this session that I won't be talking the full 55 minutes or so. So it's going to be significantly less. So it might be that in the end we have 15 minutes or even more for questions, or we have 15 minutes of silence. And these are lots of Finns and Estonians on the call. I think we can just enjoy the silence. People outside of Finland and Estonia, do you know what we call an uncomfortable silence here? We call it silence. It's never uncomfortable. And then during this session, I'm going to repeat multiple times that ideas are worthless, that having great ideas is worthless. And I don't actually mean it, but what I do mean is that in context, there are many more important things than having great ideas. So there's tools, processes that if you have them, you can make having great ideas thrive. And if you only have great ideas without the tools and processes, this might be a waste of time. So I think that's enough of an intro. We've had 3 intros now. It's the last time to begin. Who am I to preach you about the growth? Thank you. Sakari introduced me already, but I've been doing lots of things. But yeah, mostly my claim to fame is I was the first marketer at Pipedrive. I joined the company as an advisor even before the tool was live, and I was there for 7 years, grew a team of 20-something marketers. I then took a very short break, and then 2018 started working on founded Outfunnel with 2 co-founders, and then we've been going at it ever since. And let's dive in. And then quickly, what is Outfunnel? Outfunnel is we offer the easiest way, by far the easiest way to connect sales and marketing tools and data. So we work with CRMs like Pipedrive, Hopper, HubSpot, and Airtable. We're going to add Salesforce soon, and we connect them to a whole bunch of marketing tools. And this sounds kind of boring to most people I speak to, at least outside the SaaS circles. And the boring element is something I want to come back to at the end of this talk. So let's cover this as one of the last things as well. All right, but then the lessons. There's going to be about 6 of them. So let's 5. So let's start. So I want to share a little bit about my background as an investor before I gonna go into marketing. So I started investing in early 2000s properly, and I was a very diligent investor. I went to talk to my bank's asset management person, and then he advised me to buy JP Morgan crazily priced index funds, and said that this offers me a great ratio of risk and return, and I can take my eye off the ball and continue my day work, and my savings would slowly but surely go, and I can be a happy pensioner one day. So I foolishly trusted this person. I believed it, and I just bought some JP Morgan crazily priced, or like JP Morgan index funds, which were just at crazy fees. And then my friends were less diligent, and they just bought the stocks they liked. And in the early 2000s, the stock market in the Baltics, in Estonia, was quite hot. So there was companies like Hansapank, which was acquired by Swedbank later. There was like a Baltica, which turned out to be Monton later, and almost all the stocks just kept going up. And I think this was great. It's great to read the business news. But what I didn't appreciate is that while I was earning a safe 7, 8, 10% year-on-year return on my very safe and prudent portfolio, my friends who were foolishly bought into Hansapank and Baltica, they earned 7 times their money back in the same time. Absolutely, I think Hansapank went like 7x in a year or in a year and a half. And I was like, I felt really disappointed then, because I realized that I had been too risk avoidant. I was still then a young man, so I had all the time in the world to take risks and to lose all of my money and then earn it back and then put it to stock market again and do it 3 times. But I had picked the strategy of a 40 or of my current age to be invested in the stock market. And I think the same is true for marketing budgets. So if you want to build a balanced portfolio, and I'm here quoting again my financial advisors who I've maybe begin to trust more in a way and then distrust more in another way. So they say that you need to have like several components in your kind of marketing or in your investment portfolio. You need to have things which are like bonds, so they're guaranteed to give you a small return. Things which you will not lose money very likely, but you will make a small profit. Then you might have things such as index funds or funds, managed or index funds, which are slightly riskier, but then give you a bigger return. And then you might have individual stocks or even options or even NFTs in your portfolio, which are a very high chance to lose all your money. But if it works, you get your money back 10x or 20x or 30x. And the same applies to marketing budget. So you want to have, you need to have things there which always kind of return safely the money you've invested in there. So if everybody in your industry is using, let's say, Google Ads, you probably won't over index or you won't probably overachieve when you also do Google Ads. But it's a nice, safe way to make some returns, to make some growth happen, no matter what, with a very small risk and predictable return. But you also want to have things there which are much more risky. So you might lose all your money, but then you're also likely to make it back 10x, 20x, or even more. So things which are kind of experimenting with brand new advertising vehicles or doing your own very risky growth hacking campaigns, testing novel things, working with things which people haven't worked before. And then the question then is, what share of your budget should be less risky and what share of the budget should be more risky? And there, I think companies are different, and then the risk appetites are different. So if you're an established company, I think you want to have most of your budget in safe bond-like things, and maybe you don't want to spend more than 10% in riskier bets, such as kind of growth experiments. But as a startup, I think the experiments share can't be less than 30%. You probably want to have 30, 40, maybe even 50% put on experiments. Of course, the share of budget also depends on your runway. It depends on what skills and what team you have. But I think 30 to 50% is a good benchmark to keep in mind. And then what it allows you to do, I mean, it sounds nice theoretically as an interesting idea, but what this has allowed me to do is to sell crazy ideas to my CFO in the companies I have to work with a strong-minded CFO. So if you go in there and say, hey, I have this great idea, let's do this, let's put all our money in this strange new advertising vehicle that nobody has tested before, you get looks, and for a good reason. But if you've sold him on the idea, or her, if you sold them on idea first, that, hey, we should put 25% of our, let's say, advertising budget or content budget into risky, crazy things. And then the 75% will make sure that we grow at least some amount. And this 25% is going to be for experimentation. If they're on board with that, then it's nice. Then if they come to you and asking, hey, what's our crazy idea next quarter or the quarter after that? So if you implement this frame of thinking in your company, it allows you to just have a good stream of wacky ideas that you can then use, and then you can even kind of not win in any of the growth experiments you do, but if the idea has been bought into, then you can continue doing that without having to be afraid that next quarter the taps will be closed. So one of the things I made with Skype was that, I mean, Skype, it mostly grew with like word of mouth, and there was nothing really. The share of marketing in Skype's growth is minuscule, tiny, but we still wanted to get the word out there as a brand and as an employer as well. So back then, the big Skype Speaks message was that it was free to have a conversation on Skype. And we thought, what's a visible thing in the middle of town which would also be a good metaphor for what can be free? And then we painted a tram Skype colors, and we also made the tram free to ride. This was back before the time of populist Estonian politicians making public transport for free for some citizens or city inhabitants. But this was a big deal. Like, it got us a nice big chunk of PR. And had we only done trams in kind of European marketing, we would have probably wasted too much money on things which are wasteful and maybe slightly humorous, but without generating a good return. But then it was good to put some of our budget and energy into things like that. And then the question, if you buy into this idea, then the question becomes, or it should become, like, so what do you test? So where do you find your kind of which kind of ideas are most likely to work for your company, for your business? And I have a bit of a framework here. So I think here again, ideas are worthless, and category awareness is the boring sounding but very useful thing to keep in mind when you start deciding which channels to put in your portfolio. So we have two animals on this screen. So let's look at the picture of animals. So can people on this call, do you know what this animal on the right is? Most of us, I think, do. It's a dog. It's a dog. And then if we wanted to get the dog, we all kind of know where to get one. So we know how to search for like dog shops, pet shops, and then we just need to go in there and find a nice puppy, and then it's done. If we're marketing dogs, it's quite predictable. You need to put your dogs in findable puppy stores. Maybe you need to work with some kennel influencers, and then you're off to the races. Do you know what this animal on the left is, though? I can't see you, but I'm sensing that many of you are kind of are doing this. So it's a sugar glider. It's a cute small animal that's kind of a half squirrel. It's basically a flying squirrel. It's a mouse-like thing which can fly, not fly, but glide through the air. Super cute, but super low awareness in most circles I hang out with, because they're not present in Estonia or Finland or even Europe. And if I was marketing sugar gliders, then let's say I had a tough case, so I couldn't sell through the pet shop, so I had to do direct to consumer sugar glider business. How do you do that? How do you get people to how do you sell it? Because nobody's searching for it. Nobody can search for it because they don't know that the thing exists. So it's a slightly different case, if you can follow me, than selling dogs, something with a high category awareness. And I think the same kind of frame of mind is useful when you think about your product or category. So you have category awareness. So let's say I'm selling. I used to be selling marketing automation. Now I'm selling data integration. So I think marketing automation is a very established category. Data integration, definitely a less established category. So the category awareness is lower. If I was selling blockchain-based email security tools, I think even a smaller category awareness, which is because it doesn't even exist. So you have category awareness and you have category urgency, where is that thing on my mind today? So if you think of gym memberships, every day we know what a gym membership is without fail. There's no day when we don't know what the gym membership is. But in the first 2 weeks of January, we actually put this knowledge into practice. We activate, and this information is relevant. And the same is true for software as well. So that some triggers make the category of software more appealing or less appealing. And if you keep in mind category awareness and category urgency, you can basically divide all of marketing into two. So you can either, if you are selling things with a high category awareness and high category urgency, you're basically maximizing findability. People are looking for you, maybe less, maybe more frequently, but people are looking for you. And if people are looking for you, then you need to be findable. Some people use the word visible, like visibility, but I think I like the word findability because it's kind of more active, more directed. Visibility is, I don't know, it could be just standing outside the house naked and then it's visible, but not really useful in any way. And if you then operate in a market which has low category awareness and low category urgency, then nobody's looking for you, nobody's searching for you. So what you need to do is you need to maximize interruptions, or if you need to stop people in the track, show them a picture of a cute animal or your product or your software category, and say, hey, would you like to learn more? Would you like to buy one? And then if you do this mental exercise about your products category, awareness and urgency, almost, and if you kind of know that, and also worth keeping in mind that some products are pure dog type, so high category awareness and urgency, and you are definitely on the top right end of the spectrum. Some products are definitely on the bottom left. Most products are somewhere in between, but one side dominates. So in everything you market, you need to keep both of these marketing modes in mind, but then one of them usually dominates. One of them should be your strong side, and then the other, you can, it's almost like left jab, right jab. You have to make sure that your right jab delivers most of the punches, but sometimes you need to kind of jab with your left as well. And if you keep that in mind, then where I would start looking for channel experiments is usually like in this very kind of crude way that in high category awareness and urgency, people are looking for you, people are searching for you, and then the channel which kind of makes most sense is then search, both organic and paid. There's also high purchase intent content combined with SEO. There's in the SaaS business where we all are, or most of us are, we have review sites and directories, some direct response page channels, and then various marketplace catalogs, Capterra, GetUp, etc., etc. Other examples that are kind of app stores or Amazon, if you're in e-commerce. So there's plenty of marketplace directories, but for us, these tend to be software category sites like G2 and Capterra and similar sites. And then if you operate in a low category urgency and awareness, then no, people are actively not looking for you. People are spending time reading news, looking at pictures of funny cats in social media, and then this is where you probably want to be. Then you want to be present with your ads in social media. So both ads and then posting. So both organic and paid social. Outbound sales is a good way, and outbound email is a good way to get somebody's attention, to interrupt them. Display ads, sometimes it's content, PR, viral. And then no matter whether you are in a high category awareness or low, then I think recommendations and word of mouth is a good channel to keep in mind in any case.
Andrus, maybe I'll interrupt with a question here.
Yeah.
So recommendations and word of mouth, many of us or many startups that are in the early stages, they have them from say their home market or a region, and then they expand to a larger market, and they don't have recommendations maybe yet from that market.
Yeah.
How do you work from there? Say you have Finnish recommendations or Estonian recommendations, and you are actually trying to get to a global market, or transferring from say doing a pivot, going from a past market to a new market. So can you still use recommendations, or how do you work that out?
Yeah, and that it depends on which market you're going from and which market you're going to, and what the business is. If you if your product is in mobile technology, going from Finland to any country in the world, Finland has credibility there. So you can go with Finnish testimonials, and they work equally well in Great Britain or maybe even Germany. In Germany, I think you want to be local. So that you may be able to just translate, and it kind of works. But then in most cases, you may just want to buy or borrow or threaten or blackmail your first local testimonials, and then make it work. And yeah, just kind of cold start it, just like you cold start an engine with it cold outside. You pour some gasoline in there, maybe throw a match or crank it, and then start it. And that's not easy.
Right. Thanks.
But then it's almost like and then this kind of model of that you have one side of marketing dominating plus recommendations. This has this kind of brings to mind Jim Collins to me, and then Jim Collins. Do you know the book Good to Great? I think in many books he has had this theme about the hedgehog strategy, so doing one thing really well. Rings a bell? So I'd like to kind of take it one step further and say, what's better than doing one thing really well? What's better than the hedgehog strategy? It's doing two things really well. So you then get really good at either findability or interruptions and referrals. And if you do that, you can get surprisingly far in SaaS marketing. So at Pipedrive, I think that was in year 5. I surveyed our customers, and then one question, or year 4 maybe, and then we did multiple times ever since. But then we asked for the first time, say, how did you hear about us? And then 35% said that I just started searching. And another 30% said, hey, I asked for recommendations from my colleagues or friends. So 70 or 75% of our growth was coming from 2 things only. So we needed to then get good at being findable when people start searching for a new CRM, and we need to drive recommendations and referrals. And when marketers don't have much influence over referrals, it's like a bit of a dark box, but you can still do several things in order to drive referrals. So you can have a referral program in the app, somehow incentivize that. You can just make sure that your product messaging is very clear. You can drive awareness and be top of mind. You can work with influencers. So there's some big practical things you can do to drive referrals, although it is a bit of a black box and it's hard to measure it, and it's hard to measure it directly, but when it works, it's beautiful. All right, so the next lesson of why ideas are worth as a prioritization. So if you work with any company, then very soon you will have more ideas than you can execute. And if you work in a great company, you will have more great ideas than you can execute. And then if you have another good idea, then it's meaningless. Like you have already had a backlog of great ideas. You have like already a quarter full of backlog for good ideas. How do you then pick? And I found the ICE methodology very good at prioritization. I mean, there's more elaborate prioritization tools and methods, but I like the simplicity of it. So if you have a bunch of ideas, just throw them in a spreadsheet and rate the impact and confidence and effort. So impact, how much is this going to move the needle? Confidence, how likely is it that the needle will be moved? And then effort, so how hard or easy is it to implement something? And of course, the effort is inverse. So you want minimal effort to produce the maximum result. So you need to kind of make sure that the formula is taking that into consideration. Sometimes when you're dealing with different channels, you also want to add an R column. So then you have a RICE. So R for reach. Then you have a RICE index or RICE methodology, but I think ICE usually works. And the trick with this is to over-index confidence in this calculation, because most of us use gut in deciding whether something is going to be high impact or high effort. And if you only use your gut, doing this exercise usually becomes pointless, because then you will get back to the same place with the person with the loudest voice dominates, because their gut feeling is the most important. But then if you over-index confidence and really make sure that confidence is rated correctly and you've all agreed on a term on the kind of scales of confidence, then this model becomes increasingly useful. So confidence, I'm just going to give you an example, 5-point scale. So at the lower end, so low confidence means that this sounds like a good idea. It just sounds like it. There's no confidence, this sounds like a good idea. Number 2 is this has worked for other SaaS companies. Number 3 is this has worked for our competitor. Number 4 is we have run a small experiment with dummy data with like maybe landing pages, and there seems to be demand there. And 5 is we've done a kind of a definite, well-built, well-measured experiment, and this worked at our small-scale test. And if you do this rating, and if you just make sure that your 4s and 5s get over-indexed, then this model becomes increasingly useful, because then the things which you already have tested kind of rise to the top, and nothing which is potentially resource intense bubbles to the top without proper testing before. And here I'm also mentioning that there's going to be some, as you can see, there's some links in the bottom left corner for some of the slides. You will find a blog post written by yours truly or somebody else when you click on one of these links, or just type in the bit.ly link. Just checking my notes. Be back in a second.
Maybe I'll remind everybody here about the questions. So I asked one there, but please keep posting the questions, or at least thinking about them till the end, and upvote if we have them.
Yeah, good comment there. So we have a couple of more lessons learned. So we've talked about why having ideas is worthless if you don't have the right financial model for that in the team. We've talked about why kind of category awareness is more important than ideas, because it gives you direction of which channels are more organically, naturally likely to work for you. We've talked about now prioritization. One definite thing which I've seen working time and time again at Pipedrive and Outfunnel and many other companies I've invested in or advised or envied is just working on new platforms. This is listing, pretty recent listing from Pipedrive Marketplace. Outfunnel got started maybe a couple of months after Marketplace had launched for Pipedrive. We're one of the first apps there. We were one of the first decent apps there, so it was easy to build up a reputation. And although there's many bigger companies which have entered the marketplace later, we are still the top rated in there because we developed an early lead, and it's very hard to then get to the same place even if you're a kind of better resourced company. From the Pipedrive's history, in 2012, so maybe a year and a half into Pipedrive's existence, a co-founder Martin Tajur built the Google Chrome Web Store integration, which was super easy. I think it was like a day and a half of work, or maybe 1 day of work. And all it allowed you to do is to sign up with one click from Google Chrome Web Store, which was a big thing at the time. And because Pipedrive was one of the first CRMs in that Google Chrome Web Store, this increased signups by a third, or so this drove 1/3 of signups. So this increased signups by 40% with a very low effort, super low effort. And then this continued for a year and a half, where Google Chrome Web Store was driving a significant amount of our signups. This source was, it converted notably less users to paid, but it was fine because the cost was nothing, because the cost was just this day and a half of work, and then some server cost when you just power up a new instance of Pipedrive to these customers. A few years later, Capterra launched their paid program, and we were one of the first companies to start buying ads in the CRM category in Capterra. And then when we were paying maybe $500 for a new customer for Google Ads, the CPA was somewhere around $200 for Capterra, because it was a new channel, cost per click was low, and then competition was low. And then we just really we put as much money as we could into Capterra. At some point, we maxed out on Capterra. So we wanted to increase budget, but they said, sorry, we can't physically fit any more money into the channel. You're going to have to now, this is the max you can get. It was a good, I think, six digits of dollars we put into the channel every month, and we couldn't put any more, but it's just hugely profitable for a time, and then of course others discover the same thing, and then now it's I think there's no arbitrage left anymore between Google Ads and Capterra, but new channels have started after that. Like a year ago, we were deciding our next integration, and then Zendesk Sell was in a place where they wanted to develop their marketplace actively, and it would have been a good time to be there, but we chose not to. And then even if they're not new kind of integration partners and a marketplace is launching, there's always new ad formats. So at some point, maybe 18 months ago, Instagram video story ads were hugely profitable because it was a new channel and there was less competition in there. So there's always new integration partners, new marketplaces, new ad formats and new ad platforms. And it's, I've seen it as a, none of these channels scale in itself, but it's good to have this muscle, like the muscle of always looking for the next channel and then testing them early and then seeing what you can scale and what you should double down on. So has worked for me well so far, and I'm gonna want to continue riding this this wave in the future.
Andrus, one question here from Paulus. So when you do this type of prioritization, say ISO, RISO, or these channels, are there any tools or better tools than say Google Sheets that you have used?
Google Sheets is a perfect tool for that. Low adoption hurdles, and then it just works. I'm sure there's more smart tools, but trust me, Google Sheet is great because it's all you need. And then like we have one topic left, so or a topic and a half left. So I think at Pipedrive, so I started out as I properly joined when the product already had product market fit. So the first year was founders talking to early users, understanding, hey, what do we need to change? How do we make the product great? And then so the hand-to-hand combat almost. So the marketing is more hand-to-hand combat. And then the next phase after that is that you need to start marketing, and then you need to get some channels to work. And then it's more like I'm sorry, I'm using a war metaphor here, but the next stage is almost like a machine gun. So you do one thing and get many customers at the same time. And then at some point you have lots of machine guns and you don't have the hands to man these machine guns. Then you need to change your role and be a recruiter, not like an army recruiter, not really a kind of individual machine gunner yourself. And then at some point at Pipedrive, I realized that yes, we were bringing people in, we were lots of machine guns, lots of ammunition, but people started bumping into each other, like things became inefficient. So I changed my focus once again to be not the individual contributor and not a recruiter, but more like a systems designer, like or maybe like if you've seen a Bond movie, then there's always a villain with the cat. When he presses a button, then like some like rockets get out of the earth and then fly, and then some troops get sent to the right place, and it's like a system. It's a great system in place, and you want to be that guy who has a great system in place when you need to scale, take a new market or launch a new product. But the problem is that you don't really, like when you're in the trenches, nobody tells you, hey, Andrus or Sakari, this previous phase is over now, you go to the next phase. You usually learn that like 3 or 6 months after the fact, when you're going to be doing the old role and realize that you need to be in the new role. So I found that the shift to kind of people, I did it too late, at least once in my career. Hope to not repeat this again. And then increasingly this kind of third role of being the chief recruiter. So that your job as a head of marketing or CMO of a company is not really to have all the answers and know what works best in each channel, but your role is to bring in the best people for the channel and build a team. So there's two posts, two separate items. So this post linked here is about the the 4 stages that I went through, or I think most people go through when they scale a SaaS company. And this post here is about hiring marketers. And here I have had my good share of hits and misses. But I think 5 things have worked for me when hiring marketers. First, like, you need to know that there's 3 broad areas of marketing which need to be filled. Sakari mentioned acquisition marketing early on, and then most people think that they need acquisition marketer when they launch a new startup because it's the new customers they need. But increasingly, I think it's the product marketing which is even more important. So product marketing, who defines what you sell, what category you operate, how you are different than competitors, how do you price it, how do you package it. As we have more and more SaaS tools, this has become increasingly important. And then many good companies like Intercom have hired a product marketer as their first marketer, and then continued to the rest of the kind of marketing functions after that. And then communication is also something which, I mean, is not important for most SaaS companies, but is probably important for some SaaS companies. So you need to have all 3 covered, but usually one side dominates, and this one side in SaaS usually is product marketing and acquisition. And it's good to keep the product marketing thing in mind, even if your most pressing need is acquisition. And then my approach so far has been to hire a full stack marketer as the first and second marketer to the team, because then you can kind of be flexible in how you put them to work. But then if you've done the category awareness exercise from 6 slides ago, then maybe if you do that and you realize that you're in one extreme, so you have either extremely low or extremely high category awareness, then maybe you don't need a full stack marketer. Maybe you need like somebody to really kind of go all in with findability, or somebody that goes all in with interruptions, maybe a cold email or cold outbound campaigns person, not a full stack marketer. So that's a good kind of hat to have in mind. That's a good exercise to have gone through when you start planning and hiring your marketing team. Because if you do that exercise well, then you can be pretty precise on what kind of people you want to bring into your team. Third thing, which maybe is slightly philosophical, is that you always want to bring in somebody who's done at least one thing well in the previous career, right? So you want them to have something to show, like I did this, I moved that needle. But I found it hard to work with people who only succeeded, who have never failed properly and bigly, and who don't have a chip on their shoulder. So you want to have a good mix of both. I think if you that's my experience anyway. I'm looking for both people who have positive experiences and things to show, but also things to prove in the next kind of stage of their career. Then trying before you buy. I mean, it's a great model for marketing. It's a great model also for finding new colleagues. So I've been lucky now a couple of times when you first hire somebody as a consultant and then bring them in a month or 2 later when you really realize that actually this is working really well, and then you can skip the probation period and just a faster on board if you can bring in somebody from your sphere of consultants. So it's good to work with lots of consultants, and when hiring consultants, it's good to keep in mind that, hey, theoretically, can I bring this person in full house, into not full house, but in-house fully. And then, of course, the last thing is that hiring is never, hiring is not done when people sign the dotted line. It's really, then you still have to get the person onboarded. And then in a startup, sometimes it's hard to find time to onboard people properly because you want to, like, I had this problem, I found the person, now it's their problem. It's still your problem. Like, until they are properly ramped up, and that usually happens in around 3 months, 100 days, then it's still your problem, and it makes sense to put extra attention in making sure that they get fully up to speed and or then managed out if they're not the right person. And I think that covers most of my slides. I think so. For the one last time, I want to emphasize that. So this is just kind of a recent case study of ideas. I say that the ideas are worthless, but I actually think that having great ideas also matters. So this was an idea we had about messaging outfunnel. And maybe this slide doesn't have a point, but maybe that is the point. So when we were relaunching the company in April and May of this year, we realized that what we do is quite boring, and it's hard to find to talk about it in an excited way. And then we realized that maybe that is the way to talk about the product. Say that what we do is super boring but very useful, because that's what data connection is about. And then we ran some tests. We used Winter to do like a more typical product messaging, and we used that. I posted on my LinkedIn and got very strong opponents and proponents for this, and realized that we had hit on something, which polarized opinions. So some people really liked it. Some people really disliked it and recommended, hey, definitely not do that. It's stupid. You're putting friction on the path of people learning about your product. But we went with it anyway. So this has been our messaging for the last 4 or 5 months. And we will be discontinuing it probably next week or the week after, because it's still polarizing opinions. And it's still where every week I get some emails or messages, hey, love this messaging. But we found that while like people who like it, they're not our core audience. So they are more cerebral marketers or consultants or people who like to play with words and things. But customers actually find it confusing. So we probably lost out on some signups and new paying customers because of that messaging. So we're gonna simplify the messaging again. But if we have risky ideas in the future, then we will continue doing that. So I'm gonna continue taking risks because it'd be foolish for me not to after advocating taking risks for you. I think actually next time we're gonna try to do that is next week probably. So if you follow me on Twitter, then you might see what I'm hinting at.
I think, Andrus, everybody will now come to your site next week and see what you do. So big thanks. Thanks for sharing those things, and really nice that you actually added the links on the slides, because you have really good content in the background as well. We have some questions, so I think if we use some time now for this. I think these are a bit all over, so there's no red line, but let's just start. You did talk about a lot of the many mistakes that you can make and will make, obviously, because marketing is about trying things out. But Nico has posted a question saying, hey, what are the worst mistakes? And I don't know how you even pick a worst mistake. You've been in this business so long, but you probably have a couple. So
I'm going to start with my own, because everybody makes mistakes. So the mistake I've made twice, actually two bigger mistakes I've made. So one is, like I mentioned, that I was head of marketing and I was still managing one of the channels or two of the channels at the time where I already should have changed my focus full time into team building and recruiting. So I was doing the right thing for the wrong time of the company, for the right life stage. So I think as a head of team or head of marketing, or a head of company, you are spending time on a too tactical level where you should be one step more strategic. And one thing I've also done once is I've scaled a little too little. So I was a head of marketing then at the Pipedrive, and then we were blessed with having a great CEO, and then aggressive fundraising targets. We got our funding raised, and I was slightly too long, for like a couple of months too long, stuck in a too careful mode. So the minute that let's say a 9 million, I think we raised $9 million at some point. And before that, we had struggled before that. I had to turn off ads some months because we just didn't have the money for that. And then if this happens, then you should get much more aggressive in acquisition, and then taking more risks and putting more of your money into risky bets. And I was like a couple of months behind that thought. And then, so yeah, I scaled too late, but also I've scaled too early once. So just finding the right time, I think. So timing, I think, it's easy to do the right things. It's hard to do them at the right time. Yeah,
I've also launched product too early 3 times, pulled it back every time. That's another story. So then another question here. I'll pick these in a bit of a different order than they are here. But can you? I'm looking at Paulus's question here. So let's then take the stack and outfunnel question there. But can you give just an example of a niche segment or SaaS segment where you would maximize category awareness? So I mean, I guess CRMs these days would be one, right? If you would create a niche CRM, people are looking for a tool, but that's the kind of thing that maximizes awareness for a small niche, that there's already a big market and you're specializing and maybe creating a vertical solution. Anything else?
Yeah, I think, so the things, Airtable is funny. Like Airtable is a spreadsheet, right? But it's also a database. So spreadsheet and databases have high category awareness, but they made a new niche by combining these two things. And then that niche is now basically Airtable and maybe Coda. So they've created a new category out of 2 existing categories. But yeah, I think maybe the better example, the easier example is what Sakari said. If you have something which is broad for a vertical, that's a good niche category, high category awareness for a niche.
So you've been using advisors a lot or outsourced resources a lot. What's the good ratio to in-house outsourced? Is there one? And what's good to outsource these days? It
always, the answer to every question in the world is it depends. But I think here the broad answer, which I would say is, if something is not core, you should outsource it. If something is core, you bring it in. So for instance, from Pipedrive, for a long while, like Google Ads was a big channel for us, and that needed to be in-house because we wanted to make sure that we learn everything about Google Ads. Paid social was something we experimented with, among other things we experimented with. And then we used everything which was kind of experimentation around core we had externally. And as soon as we found a channel which was working for us at scale, then we brought it in-house. Mm-hmm. So that's a good way to think about that. And I think same with design, same with analytics. So as soon as something becomes core, then you want to bring it out.
Right. So I think Rasa there has a good question, and maybe I'll add a bit. But where do you find the new upcoming platforms? You mentioned like Capterra, and I'll add my own here. When you exhaust your opportunities, how do you go about finding new channels for opportunities, or just finding new opportunities? Because at some point, when you don't have product market fit, you are struggling. So where do you go for the new customers or the customers who are your target? How do you go about solving that problem?
Yeah, so one thing and this was maybe so the one thing I like to do is make sure you understand if you work in a high category awareness business. So if people are looking for what you do, then you map what are the 5, 6, 7 relevant keywords for your business, and then you look at what comes up in Google, and then you just go through them one by one, and then you know which sites come up in searches which are the most relevant for you. You need to be working with these sites. I think this is where you find early kind of emerging new directories or kind of media sites which are relevant for your category. But then I think looking at what brings traffic to your competitors or in other SaaS verticals, just keeping your eyes open. But yeah, this mapping exercise is a foolproof way to. And I would recommend doing that every 6 months, because the search results and new platforms tend to change quite a lot.
And then I think the question everybody wants always answered is that, what's your marketing stack, or what's the state of the art marketing stack? And please add, there was a question earlier, is there a consultant or somebody, for instance, helping people set up Outfunnel with Pipedrive so they can get it up quickly. But the question from me is, what's the state-of-the-art stack?
Yeah, thank you for the leading question. But so we use, so state-of-the-art tends to be that you want to have a segment, and then you send data in segment, and then you send data out of segment. So we also use that. But what we use is, we are heavy users of Outfunnel. Of course, we use Outfunnel to connect all the marketing tools and work forms and email tools to Pipedrive, which is our main CRM. And then we sync heavy users of Outfunnel. But yeah, I think the next thing after that is segment, and then picking and mixing different tools. So if you pick and mix different tools, segment plus anything else, or maybe Outfunnel plus everything else. But some companies like to have everything in one place, then HubSpot is a safe choice these days.
Yeah. Big thanks to everybody who participated, especially Andrus, to you for taking the time to give us lessons in growth.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for listening. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.